Welcome to this important town hall conversation. I'm Christine Devine alongside Alex Michelson and Marla Tejas.
We are devoting the next hour to one of the most important issues plaguing our local communities right now, that's surging crime.
And we encourage you to join the conversation in social media. Use the hashtag Fox11SOS. Let's begin tonight with a look at your safety.
Yeah, let's get started. Do you feel like we're living in increasingly dangerous times?
It really does seem like crime is everywhere, from murder to robberies to home invasions.
Phil Schuman, he starts us off live in the Fairfax district, which has spent weeks in the headlines for surge in crime. Phil.
We're live on Melrose Ave. Crime is up, in particular violent crime in the city of Los Angeles, and along with that is an increase in the level of fear as we go about our day-to-day lives. And here in the Melrose area, they're fortunate to have a very active neighborhood watch group, which is fighting back. In the popular and trendy Melrose district, the violent crime spike is on everyone's mind. Today, the neighborhood watch group known as Melrose Action took action, installing automated license plate reading cameras to track those coming and going, aiming a lens at a community in turmoil.
Runs the gamut between fear, uncertainty, doubt, frustration, anxiety.
You hear it from residents as well as business owners. Orna Amzaleg's high-end sneaker shop has been a fixture on Melrose for decades.
Well, it's a little scary. It's a little overwhelming, and unfortunately, we're doing the best we can to keep safe.
It really hit home for her in August. Next to her building, a young employee of the Shoe Palace, Jaron Bradford, shot and killed trying to stop an argument in broad daylight. His accused killer, 16. One of 359 homicides in Los Angeles through November, up 12.1% from last year, up 46.7% from 2019, mirroring a national trend. Robbery up almost 4%, though down from 2 years ago. These latest robbery numbers reflect the frightening increase in so-called smash and grabs. And take a look at this crime spree for 10 days in November. There were arrests, yes, but most suspects released on no bail, a problem for many, including LA's mayor.
We need the help of our criminal justice system, of our judges, of our jailers. There are people who need to be behind bars.
This in part why District Attorney George Gascon is the target of a second recall.
It's one day at a time, It's a big loss for...
Trayvon Avon is one of those backing that. His mother, Michelle, killed in August. The Bank of America exec allegedly beaten to death by an ex-boyfriend inside her Reseda home. The DA apparently refusing to add so-called special circumstances in charging the suspect. That could mean a shorter sentence.
Whatever policies he has in place, whatever one blanket rules or policies he thinks is good is obviously no good. People are obviously out here watching the media, watching the news, realizing that they're getting slaps on the wrist here for, smash and grabs or whatever it is, But clearly, there's no respect for DA Gascon, so we might as well get him out of office.
Now back live here on Melrose, Gascon has said in the past and through his surrogates more recently that the emphasis on punishment does not deter crime, that the focus should be on prevention. That may be fine for the long run, but people that are afraid to walk out their front door are doing things like installing those automatic license plate reading cameras, the information Alex, Christine, and Marla provided to law enforcement if a crime occurs. And I know from talking with contacts in other parts of the city where these cameras have been installed, it does make a difference. They have had several prosecutions as a result of those cameras. Live on Melrose, I'm Phil Schuman, Fox 11 News.
Interesting, Phil, and unfortunately, those crime stats are going to have to go up once again. This is a live look at breaking news tonight. A teenage boy shot and killed in Boyle Heights. Skyfox live over the scene. This is at 1st Street and South Savannah Street. That shooting reported around 3:30 this afternoon near Evergreen Recreation Center. Preliminary reports indicate that one person was detained. Police have set up a perimeter as officers may now be searching for a second suspect.
We have a photo of the little girl wounded in last night's shooting in Wilmington. 9-year-old Melanie Regosa was struck by a stray bullet while on a school playground. She's expected to survive. However, a 12-year-old boy lost his life in the gunfire. He was in an SUV when two gunmen approached it and started shooting. The 30-year-old woman was also wounded but will survive. The gunmen are still on the loose.
Throughout this next hour, we do really want to hear from you, members of the community, and how this crime surge has impacted you. So we put together a Your Take panel that includes concerned residents and a business owner. In a moment, you're going to meet someone who lives at this West L.A. condo complex that was burglarized a few times recently. This is the most recent crime, this surveillance video that you're seeing here. You're also going to meet the owner of Rustic Roots Hair Salon in Riverside. You probably saw this on our news earlier this week. It got hit by the so-called slithering burglar last week. This guy is still on the run. And then you'll also meet a single mom raising a teenage boy in South Los Angeles with growing concerns about the crime rate. Here they are. Tanaz Moshir Fatemi on the left here. In the middle, we have Lori Hodge and Monisha Boyd on the right. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing your concerns. Tanaz, I'm going to begin with you. You are an HOA board president of a building in West Los Angeles that has been targeted numerous times over the pandemic. Most recently, let's take a look at the video, the surveillance video. This was just Saturday, where this suspect gained entrance into the property. He went ahead and he stole 2 bikes. That's what you're looking at here. This guy, by the way, he has not been caught. So for you at home, when you get a good look at him, you will call LAPD if you know anything about him. He also stole some personal property. Tanaz, how big of a problem is this for your building?
I think not only is it a big problem for the building, it's a huge problem for the neighborhood. We live in one of the most expensive zip codes in the United States. We pay so much in taxes, and there's no protection. And the fundamental problem is obviously, the legal system, local politicians or whatnot. We've put in place so many preventative measures, Marla, from security cams to picking up packages and not leaving them overnight, carrying mace. As ordinary citizens, we're not going to become vigilantes and go after these guys. So prevention needs to be taken care of on a higher level so that we can live in peace.
What does that look like for you? Because it sounds like you are taking matters into your own hand. What do you need to be done, whether that's from local law enforcement or from city and county officials?
I'll give you the perfect example. When I bought this condo in 2006, there was police patrolling around the block at least 5 or 6 times a night. I could leave my door unlocked. It's a whole different world, and I really feel like we've moved into a dystopian future. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, very scary. We're not done with you yet, Tanaz. We're going to move over to Lori. Lori, your salon made the news this week because of what we dubbed the slithering suspect. He was able to evade your alarm system. You say that he did this, that he slithered across your salon floor to get away from your alarm system. He got away with about $8,000 worth of cash. Turns out you're not alone in terms of business owners who have been hit in Riverside. What are you hearing? How big of an issue is this for you?
This is a very big, huge issue. I never even thought it would even happen to me. Not realizing that 6 other businesses got hit by the same person around my time and before my time. So when I put this out there, it's just for everyone to be aware of, be careful. This person's coming out and taking everything that you can from you. And it's just upsetting because I just feel like I don't have that backbone from my PD to help me, because their hands are tied as well. I mean, they're going to catch this guy and probably release him because there is no justice.
What are
so
they
they're going to keep on doing it. Basically, they're looking into it. They don't know who it is, but at the same time, I just feel like even if they do catch him, they're gonna let him go. Yeah. There's not gonna be a justification for it.
Yeah, we've seen that.
And that's the most frustrating as a business owner, to work so hard and to have to build and to go through this pandemic, and then have somebody come in here and to watch him like that and to take what you work for. It's very disappointing.
So sorry that that happened to you, of course. Monisha Boyd, We met your son, now 13 years old, Curtis, in our coverage in this last year because he really took us aback when he said that in his South L.A. neighborhood, it's a regular occurrence for him to hear gunshots. You're a single mom. You're raising a young man in South L.A. What is that like for you right now, given this rise in crime?
It is terrifying, to say the least. My son cannot be comfortable in his own neighborhood. He can't ride his bike. He can't play outside. You know, it's just unsafe. And it's unfortunate that we are unsafe and very uncomfortable in our own neighborhood.
I know that you have a direct line with law enforcement. What did they tell you?
Well, the numbers have increased. The number of crimes, home invasions, robberies. You know, I'm close friends with one of our senior officers, and he says to keep my son in eyesight because, you know, it's that bad. It's that bad, and it's disheartening.
Well, of course, that's so hard for all of us to hear. Monisha, Lori, and Tanaz, we want you to stick with us, and we're going to come back to you and get some more thoughts from you toward the end of the hour. Thank you so much, ladies. Alex, over to you.
Marla, thank you so much. Let's continue the conversation now with the sheriff of L.A. County. Alex Villanueva joins us. Sheriff, thanks for being with us.
You got it, Alex.
So we are hearing tonight from all sorts of people. You're hearing anger, frustration. You're hearing a lot of people that are scared. What's your message to the people of Southern California who are feeling all those things right now?
Well, one, you can rest assured that law enforcement, in particular the Sheriff's Department, we are going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with all victims of crime and all honest, law-abiding citizens. We're not going to let you down, and if there's a sense of betrayal coming from the District Attorney's Office, Lord willing, the voters will take care of that down the road, but for now we're going to stay focused on getting our job done. We're going to be working collaboratively with all of the other law enforcement agencies, sharing information, intelligence, and making sure we put the bad guys away, and hopefully we can get to keep them there.
Well, you're talking about the District Attorney's Office, George Gascon, potentially facing a recall in the future. I know your relationship with him is not great, kind of non-existent. I know your relationship with the L.A. County Board of Supervisors is not great. I know you say that they are to blame for a lot of this, but do you bear any responsibility? I mean, you are the sheriff of L.A. County. Does some of this problem in crime, do you bear some responsibility for it?
Well, if you could point to an area where we didn't do our job, I'd definitely say, yeah, we would bear some to blame, but we've actually been doing our job in very difficult circumstances. When you defund the Sheriff's Department by hundreds of millions of dollars, you remove 1,400 positions, and you're forcing less deputies to do more work, well, you can't expect miracles out of that equation. This is a common sense test here. And there's consequences defunding. We're seeing it occurring in real time. When I'm losing homicide investigators, major crime investigators, patrol deputies, heck, I have a hard time filling our contractual obligations with all of our 42 contract cities directly as a result of the defunding effort of the Board of Supervisors and their destaffing. That does not work. We need to actually have the resources necessary to keep the community safe, and we're going to keep fighting tooth and nail to get those resources.
You're facing a lot of folks that are running against you. The latest is Robert Luna, who is the chief of police in Long Beach. His main point is that your lack of a relationship with some of these establishment figures is actually hurting the people of Southern California, making us less safe. Here's what he told us recently on the Fox 11 News special report.
I think it all starts with relationships and partnerships. I think the men and women on the street for the LA County Sheriff's Department are doing a good job, but they need better leadership. They need somebody who can partner with elected officials, government officials, community-based organizations, the community itself.
Your response to that?
Well, I can say this. Let me flip the script entirely. If you have a Board of Supervisors that did not get their favorite candidate elected as sheriff, their endorsed candidate, and they don't want to play with the new sheriff in town, well, that sounds like that falls on the Board of Supervisors to be mature, responsible elected officials and actually work with the incoming administration. They're, in a sense, they're boycotting because they didn't get the sheriff they wanted, their puppet sheriff. I understand The chief and all the other candidates want to be that puppet sheriff for the Board of Supervisors, but I'm sorry, I draw the line. The sheriff's office is independently elected, and we serve directly. I serve directly the needs of all of the residents of Los Angeles County. I don't work underneath or subordinate to the Board of Supervisors, and that's something they had with previous sheriffs, so they're not going to have it with me. And this is really, who does a voter want the sheriff's department to be controlled by? The sheriff that they elect, or the Board of Supervisors installing a puppet?
You know, tonight's show, Save Our Streets, is really about solutions. If you could point to one thing in terms of a solution that would help right now, in the immediate short term, to stop some of this crime, what would it be?
Well, right now, immediately, we need to get rid of the zero bail schedule. Because when we arrest somebody for a felony crime, we got to have that person stay in jail and to pay the price to earn their freedom. Because right now, it's an easy ticket out. In fact, people that get arrested are out on the street before the deputies or the officers finish writing their reports. That's insane. There has to be consequences for getting involved in criminal activity. And right now, the current scheme with zero bail schedule, Prop 47, George Gascon, there are no consequences. First thing we can do is get rid of zero bail schedule.
Well, we were hoping to have George Gascon on to respond to that, to lay out his own perspective of why he is doing what he's doing. He denied our invitation. In fact, he's denied every invitation we've sent him for 11 months. He was last on our show 11 months ago, and he promised to keep coming back. Here's what he told us at the time.
I will be your nightmare because I will want to keep coming back.
Okay, well, we love that.
No nightmare.
We love the conversation, and it's important conversation. Well, Sheriff, in some ways you're our nightmare because you keep coming back. But George Gascon has not. The invitation is open, but just like you'd love to talk to him, we'd love to talk to him too. And we're sorry that he's not coming to be a part of this conversation today. But Sheriff, we appreciate you being a part of this conversation.
You got it, Alex, and this is a part about being transparent as sheriff. I'm accountable to the entire community, and I definitely want to always, if I'm the face of the organization, I have to step up to the plate and be the voice of the organization as well.
All right, Sheriff Alex Villanueva, thanks so much for sharing your perspective. Christine, over to you.
Thanks, Alex. So much to talk about. We want to hear from you. Tag us at Fox 11 on Twitter and Facebook with the hashtag Fox11SOS with your thoughts and concerns. Still to come, we will speak live to security expert with what you can do to ward off thieves at your home, plus a longtime activist in the Black community with his take on the crime problem. A big question we hope to answer is just how did we get here? A look at 30 years of history in 3 minutes when we come back. You're watching SOS Save Our Streets, Fox 11 Town Hall Discussion.
Direct, always to the point. That's what sets Fox 11 Special Report apart.
The sheriff of L.A. County and the district attorney don't even speak to one another.
Why are you going to make the difference?
Putting decision makers in the hot seat, getting you the facts.
When you walk the boardwalk and you see the conditions here, what are you thinking?
Deeper discussions, avoiding the runaround, getting to the bottom of what the buzz is all about.
Where are they getting their information?
Fox 11 Special Report, weeknights at 7.
Welcome back. The question of why is crime surging? Some of it is due to decades of choices we all made at the ballot box. Experts say criminal justice in California is a bit like a game of tug-of-war or a pendulum swinging. We go from potentially locking up too many people to perhaps letting too many people out. The early 1990s saw riots and racial tensions with a growing crack cocaine epidemic. The response? In 1994, Democratic President Bill Clinton signed the crime bill, co-authored by then-Senator Joe Biden. It imposed tougher federal prison sentences, increased funds to build prisons, and to hire more cops.
We should start with a 3 strikes you're out bill.
Also in 1994, California voters passed the 3 strikes and you're out law, imposing a life sentence for any third offense of a serious or violent crime. In the next decade, California's inmate population swelled. By 2011, state prisons meant to house a maximum of 80,000 inmates housed 156,000. The U.S. Supreme Court stepped in, saying the conditions amounted to, quote, cruel and unusual punishment banned by the U.S. Constitution. The tug now? Incarcerate fewer people. California leaders passed Assembly Bill 109, which moves some criminals from state prison to county jails or probation.
Prop 47 is a policy lowering the level of incarceration.
In 2014, California voters passed Prop 47, co-authored by then San Francisco DA George Gascon. It reclassified certain theft and drug possession offenses from felonies to misdemeanors. For example, stealing less than $950 in merchandise, now considered a misdemeanor, and shooting up drugs in public, no longer considered a felony.
When parole is a viable possibility, the behavior of inmates change.
In 2016, California voters passed Proposition 57, making it easier for nonviolent offenders to be paroled.
This is a moment we need to make tough decisions.
In 2020, the need to social distance during the COVID-19 pandemic led to an expedited release of thousands of prisoners and the elimination of bail in many cases. After the death of George Floyd in Minnesota, rallies to defund the police are held nationwide. The LAPD's budget is cut by $150 million, and the LA County Sheriff's budget cut by $145 million. Black Lives Matter endorses George Gascon for LA County District Attorney.
That I will well and faithfully.
After Gascon wins and is sworn in, he implements sweeping changes. Among them, an end to prosecuting minors as adults, eliminating almost all sentencing enhancements, and not asking for cash bail, even though in 2020, voters reaffirmed their support for cash bail. In 2021, law enforcement is struggling to deal with multiple problems getting worse at the same time. An increasing homelessness crisis, a drug overdose epidemic including opioids, heroin, and fentanyl, and the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbating the rich-poor divide and leading to increasing desperation and frustration among California's lowest income residents. The question now, which way will we pull next in our tug of war? Figuring out that answer is part of the reason for this special. By the way, today marks exactly 1 year since George Gascon took the oath of office as LA County DA. Christine, over to you.
So here we are today seeking solutions to crime. Joining us now, a longtime social commentator and author, Earl O'Farry Hutchinson. He is the founder of the Los Angeles Urban Policy Roundtable. And Earl, we thank you for joining us. We want to ask you your take on why the crime.
Well, crime is a big, big issue. First of all, as you know, it's not new. I mean, we've had crime waves in the past in this country and Southern California. In fact, they even invented a term called the crime spike. I'm old enough to remember we had big spikes in crime, violent crime, I might add, in the 1980s. Then we had a decade where things were fairly tranquil. We had new sentencing laws. We had a lot of incarceration. We had a ramp up in police forces. And also we had something else too. We had an improving economy then. So a lot of young people, and as we know, when you look at crime, most criminologists are agreed, generally is something for younger people in that teen, 20, under 30 general group. So all those things came together to kind of diminish crime. Now we're seeing yet another spike in crime. And again, the same problems we've had before. I mean, you have some laxity in law enforcement. You have a sense now of some people have a new generation, a sense of young people of entitlement, a sense that they can get away with things, that there's no really penalties for things. And I think a couple other things have added to it too. The pandemic.
Sure, let me
can't forget that.
We just saw some video of smash and grab robberies, which are one of the current things we're seeing in the media. And I think people, as you know, are scared about all the crimes. I had a friend call me today about their son murdered last week in North Hollywood. What do we do about it?
Yeah, well, and people not only are afraid, but they should be fearful. I mean, crime is a personal thing. When it touches people, especially violent crime or property crime, which we've seen with the smash and grab stuff. So I think of several things. I've always been a big believer when you're talking about law enforcement of community policing, where you have police officers that are embedded in the community that, and by the way, when I say community, not just working with community groups and organizations, but also have a direct pipeline to stores and store owners and businesses. So I think that's number one. I think the second thing that's very important is when you look at this specific type of crime now, the smash and grab, this is targeted crime. This is not just somebody that's committing a random burglary or even a violent act. So that tells me a second thing. Police, law enforcement have to target now specifically those individuals, and I think they can begin to compile a list from arrests and also from reports of those who are likely to engage in this kind of crime. The point being, you got to stop it before it starts.
I've got less than a minute here. I want to just look at some video from the Black Lives Matter protests. During that time, we saw a lot of calls for reform. We saw a lot of calls for defunding the police. We had a DA elected who's reform-minded in L.A. And some people now, I think, are saying, well, is this what we got, crime in return? What do you say to that?
Well, I say no. I was never one to endorse defund the police. I thought that was ridiculous. That's not going to happen. The fact is we do need police officers, and we need them that are certainly enforcing the law in a constitutional and lawful way. I think where the problem came in is sometimes confusing defunding the police and eliminating the police. No. Or even worse, certainly not talking about what I always just simply said, talking about police reform. But as far as policing goes, I think it would be absolutely ridiculous to think we don't need that, even if we didn't have smash and grab, even if we didn't have the violent crime that we have seen in recent days. The fact of the matter is police are a necessary part of our community.
Got to wrap it up here, but I want to let people know they can find you and your work and your good work with your giving of grants as well in the community. Your info is on the Hutchinson Report. Earl Ofari Hutchinson.
Thank you.
All right, Marla, to you.
Christine, thank you. Up next is adding surveillance cameras the answer to fending off intruders. We will speak live to an expert on home security. And remember, we do want to hear from you. Tag us at Fox 11 on Twitter and Facebook with the hashtag Fox11SOS with your thoughts and concerns. Here's a comment from one of our viewers. We thank you so much. Vincent Buey, he says this: keep up the good work, Sheriff Alex. We have to take our city back. We'll be right back.
always to the point. That's what sets Fox 11 Special Report apart.
The sheriff of L.A. County and the district attorney don't even speak to one another.
Why are you going to make the difference?
Putting decision makers in the hot seat, getting you the facts.
When you walk the boardwalk and you see the conditions here, what are you thinking?
Deeper discussions, avoiding the runaround, getting to the bottom of what the buzz is all about.
Where are they getting their information?
Fox 11 Special Report, weeknights at 7.
Welcome back. You are watching a special town hall on the rising crime in Southern California. I'm Christine Devine alongside Marla Tejas and Alex Michelson.
In the next half hour, you will hear from LAPD Chief Michael Moore.
And we continue to encourage you to join the conversation using the hashtag Fox11SOS on Twitter and Facebook. Now we want to talk about this question. Would adding cameras and motion detectors help you fend off thieves and intruders? Let's go out live to Coco McAvoy. She's talking to a security expert. Coco.
Yes, good evening. Home security is a big concern now with what's happening in Los Angeles, especially with these follow home robberies. People have questions about how to secure their home, but first we want to show you some of these follow home robberies that we're talking about. The Los Angeles Police Department is busy investigating more than 100 follow home robberies over the course of the past several weeks. And videos of robberies at homes and on the streets are circulating on social media. One recent case, believed to be in a Fairfax neighborhood, appears to show a group of 3 people arriving home trying to open the front door when 2 men approach them saying they're DEA.
DEA, put your hands up.
LAPD is still investigating that robbery case, but in Beverly Hills, a man is facing murder charges after police say he broke into a Beverly Hills house, killing philanthropist Jacqueline Avant in her own home. And it's not just the LA area. Surveillance video shows a couple robbed at gunpoint at their home in Upland, too. The home robberies are an alarming trend, and police say people are being targeted for their clothing, jewelry, the cars they drive, and the stores where they are seen shopping. They urge people to be aware of their surroundings, but it still has an impact on residents. And now I want to introduce you to Jeff Zissner. He is the president and CEO of Aegis Security and Investigations, to tell us more about how you can secure your home. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Of course, my pleasure.
So I know, of course, as we've been talking about, home security is a topic of discussion, and you've been very busy, I imagine.
Extraordinarily busy. When the world is having challenges, unfortunately, our security businesses are quite busy.
Yes, and Jeff, of course, we're at a home in the Valley. Looking at this home, what stands out to you as a possible safety risk?
So when you look at security for a home, you look at it like layers of an onion, based on professional theories called crime prevention through environmental design. So we look at things like foliage, territorial reinforcement, ease of access, ease of visibility, lighting, landscaping, and all of those things add together to make either your home more resilient against crime or less resilient against crime.
And in this case, probably the foliage and the lack of lighting is a concern, right?
Yeah, this house has virtually no exterior lighting, and without the lighting, it looks like it's an empty home. And so someone who's looking for a crime of opportunity may just cross the street, drive down, find the one house that doesn't have lights on, and now they have a target.
And something else we were talking about, we see this ADT sign here. People always wonder, is that something that helps prevent crime at your home?
So having good signage and indicating that you're actually thinking about security is always helpful, but the sign in of itself isn't necessarily going to deter a bad guy from trying to enter.
And what about things like security cameras and an alarm system? What does that do for your home too?
So security cameras are great at documenting bad things happening. They're also good if you're able to actively monitor them. The same goes for an alarm system. But if your alarm system isn't on and not being used, it's going to fail every time.
And Jeff, I know something we wanted to talk about too was over here, this gated area. If you can talk about some things, because a lot of homes have this, what are some things that can make sure that this area remains safe from burglars too?
So making sure that your home has good defensible perimeters starts with looking like it's defensively perimetered. So maybe having a vehicle parked out front as opposed to in back makes it a little more challenging for a bad guy to get up and into your home. Making sure these gates and doors are locked, making sure your front door and back doors are locked and your windows are locked, and not having things that are easily accessible for bad guys to use to jump over your fence is going to lead to a little bit better security.
Jeff, thank you so much for walking us through this home this evening. We're going to have so much more with Jeff coming up at 10 o'clock tonight to talk about how to secure your home from the inside as well. Back to you.
Great tips, both you, Coco, thank you, and Jeff. Appreciate you both. Still to come, a conversation with LAPD Chief Michael Moore.
Direct, always to the point. That's what sets Fox 11 Special Report apart.
The sheriff of L.A. County and the district attorney don't even speak to one another.
Why are you going to make the difference?
Putting decision makers in the hot seat, getting you the facts.
When you walk the boardwalk and you see the conditions here, what are you thinking?
Deeper discussions, avoiding the runaround, getting to the bottom of what the buzz is all about.
Where are they getting their information?
Fox 11 Special Report, weeknights at 7.
I want to leave. Yeah. It's just, you know, I live in a ground floor place, and unless I turn it into a fortress, I just don't feel really safe there.
And she's not alone. Look at this alarming data from the LAPD showing a big spike in crime compared to pre-pandemic levels. Through November 27th this year, homicides up 46.7% over the same period in 2019. Car thefts up a staggering 52.9%. As those crime statistics and tensions rise, what's the plan? To discuss this, we are joined by LAPD Chief Michael Moore. Chief Moore, thank you for your time tonight. Let's start by getting your reaction to those alarming numbers that we just shared in terms of homicides and auto thefts. This has to be tough for you to hear. This is your department.
It is. When we look at crime reductions that we saw over the last decade, as we entered into 2020, we began to see those crime reductions erode. First in auto theft, where we've seen the remarks now culminate over a year and a half, nearly 2 years later, with this substantial rise. And that's in the face of double-digit rise in arrests. So it's our traditional means of countering that with making arrests, identifying those offenders, has not proven to turn that tide. When we put added officers on an overtime basis, when we surge this organization into those neighborhoods, into those business areas, that crime is reduced, that the instances of these smash and grabs are eliminated, and we have a better and safer community.
Well, consequences matter because we're showing some video of the recent smash and grabs, and you showed your frustration last week. 14 suspects arrested for these 11 incidents that happened at the end of November. All 14 released, all because of the no bail policy, except for, I understand, one was a juvenile. They're out there on the streets still right now as we speak. Again, consequences matter. What can be done?
There's 14 arrests and 11 of them with a zero bail, meaning the person was immediately released. There were two or three of them that had a bail. They posted that bail and now they'll await for an arraignment. And then there was one juvenile. Two aspects of that. One, the zero bail, which was meant to protect people who are arrested for low-level offenses from being incarcerated, potentially exposed to COVID and losing their life to this pandemic. That effort was to redirect them and keep them in a community setting. The challenge is that there's elements of our community now that are learning that and are now engaged in crimes that I think otherwise they would not.
Final word here, your message to those frightened business owners who I know you've talked to one-on-one and you've seen, who we're talking to tonight, to residents who have never felt more unsafe in the city of Los Angeles. What's your final message to them tonight?
First of all, let's keep this in perspective. We are concerned about the recent spat on an increase in violence, and it is at levels that are higher than last year and the year before. But as we look across a decade or two that we go back, there's been much harsher times. Overall robberies in this city are down from where they were just 2 years ago. However, the number of gun-related robberies are up, and that's significant. So we're trying to point out to our Angelenos that this emerging trend is something we're concerned about. What we need from them is to be mindful of their surroundings, to exercise good preventive tips, and for the local communities to know that their actions matter when they do those added safeguards, because it will deter the opportunists. Lastly, to the criminal justice system and our partners, the district attorney's office, the criminal defense group, as well as the bench, the judicial branch, we need your help and assistance. This justice system works best when we make the adjustments to evolve to changing circumstances, and we're asking at this point in time that the nature of these grab and runs, of these follow homes and others, we think is because of a sense that the people of carrying a gun, having a gun in a public setting is not going to have a serious consequence.
It is worth repeating. Consequences do matter. Thanks to LAPD Chief Moore for his thoughts tonight. Christine, over to you.
All right, Marla, thank you both. Coming up next, this special is focused on hearing from you and what your concerns are. We'll hear from our panel again. Did they get clear answers from law enforcement? Also, some more of your comments. Tom says blaming rising crime on the pandemic is silly. Look at the videos of people doing smash and grabs or other robberies. Do they look like they had a career but lost it in the pandemic? From Daniel, when 50 people team up to rob a cell phone or a department store, it's not a socioeconomic issue. They're not stealing out of necessity. It's organized crime. We'll be right back with more.
always to the point. That's what sets Fox 11 Special Report apart.
The sheriff of L.A. County and the district attorney don't even speak to one another.
Why are you going to make the difference?
Putting decision makers in the hot seat, getting you the facts.
When you walk the boardwalk and you see the conditions here, what are you thinking?
Deeper discussions, avoiding the runaround, getting to the bottom of what the buzz is all about.
Where are they getting their information?
Fox 11 Special Report, weeknights at 7.
Thoughts from our panel tonight after hearing from authorities and other community members. Monisha Boyd, single mom out of Los Angeles, raising a young man, 13-year-old Curtis. Did you hear anything that piqued your interest that makes you feel safer?
I'm the reason why I would feel more safer. I need to do what I need to do on my end. In order to feel safe.
Is there a takeaway from tonight?
No. No.
You have law enforcement's ear right now. What do you want to say?
I think we need more officers on board, especially in our neighborhoods. I know it was mentioned that cameras would be installed in the Fairfax district and other areas. We need the same in our areas so we can feel as protected as other residents in those particular areas.
That is a great point, Monisha. Thank you so much. Lori,
you are.
Salon owner in Riverside, burglarized recently.
I have the same frustration as the PD. I don't feel that we have enough for small businesses or for anybody that's getting burglarized or feeling unsafe. Unfortunately, we need more staffing and more security, and it's still unsettling. Words are words, but you need more action.
Actions speak louder than words. That's very true. Tanaz, final word from you. Any takeaway from tonight that you'd like to share?
Sure. I think the sheriff and the LAPD are doing the best that they can, but I think they're also overwhelmed because they don't have the support that they need. It was the worst idea ever to defund the police because the fundamental backbone of a society is that actions have consequences. And, you know, we can work on preventing as citizens and do whatever we can. However, if all these thieves know that they're not going to have any consequences or no bail or no jail time, then really what is the point? And it really sounds like, and this is the opinion that, you know, a lot of people I talk to have, is that Gascon is the fundamental problem. And personally, I don't think he should be in this job. He's not qualified to do so. I think this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And my local lead officer, Matt Kirk, who is great, has given us a lot of advice in different communiques, you know, basically saying to be vigilant, to, you know, lock your doors, lock your cars, don't walk alone. So stuff like that, basically.
To take it into your own hands as well. And of course, the invitation stands for DA George Gascon to join our discussion. Tanaz, Lori, Monisha, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Alex?
Marla, a big part of this is listening to your voice. We've been asking for you to send in your thoughts using the hashtag Fox11SOS. Here are some of them. Dylan says a must-see Fox11 SOS, the result of years of poor state and city political leadership and deceptive propositions. And this one, underfund the police, overturn no bail policy. Pretty simple for him. We'll be right back with our final thoughts.
always to the point. That's what sets Fox 11 Special Report apart.
The sheriff of L.A. County and the district attorney don't even speak to one another.
Why are you going to make the difference?
Putting decision makers in the hot seat, getting you the facts.
When you walk the boardwalk and you see the conditions here, what are you thinking?
Deeper discussions, avoiding the runaround, getting to the bottom of what the buzz is all about.
Where are they getting their information?
Fox 11 Special Report, weeknights at 7.
When there is a crime that happens, the police kind of have their hands tied. They arrest somebody, they take them to the police station, and then they have to let them go. That's not really how you solve crime. And certainly the criminals know that more than anybody else.
He is one of many sharing their concerns with us tonight. We have a look at some of your tweets that are coming in. From Hawk, he says, the sheriff showed up. Can't say the same for George Gascon,
who did not accept our invitation. Another one here, it appears that the politicians have lost control. Or this one here, maybe the way you build trust with the community you need to protect. So he was not a fan of what Sheriff Villanueva had to say tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for using the Fox 11 hashtag SOS. We'll be right back.
Direct, always to the point. That's what sets Fox 11 Special Report apart.
The sheriff of L.A. County and the district attorney don't even speak to one another.
Why are you going to make the difference?
Putting decision makers in the hot seat, getting you the facts.
When you walk the boardwalk and you see the conditions here, what are you thinking?
Deeper discussions, avoiding the runaround, getting to the bottom of what the buzz is all about.
Where are they getting their information?
Fox 11 Special Report, weeknights at 7.
There is much more on the spike of violent crimes on the Fox 11 News at 10.
We thank you so much.
Good night. We'll see you at 10.